What's up? Hello everybody and welcome back. In case you guys don't know, yes, this is the follow-up to the video that I put out a little more than a month ago called Why the S.H.MonsterArts line Needs to Change, plus survey explanation point. We'll get to the survey part in a bit. And in that video, I more or less expressed some of my grievances with the S.H.MonsterArts line. Was I a little unfair? Yeah, I'd say I was. Did I make some hot takes? Yeah, I'd say I did. But was I also unloading 13 years of me putting up with this line? Oh, absolutely. Also, I do apologize for that video being 3 hours long. I just had a lot to say about MonsterArts. In this video, it's gonna be more chill, alright? Comments have been enabled. Lord have mercy. And yeah, this is just going to be more of a discussion video while I go through the survey results of that video. Because, yeah, there was a survey, and, yeah. But before we talk about the survey, what has happened in the 1 month since that video? A lot, actually. And one of the announcements, actually, it would have been more fitting if I just wore some clown makeup and had a clown nose. But yeah, to make it like real quick to the point, some of the latest MonsterArts reveals have been very surprising, both from Godzilla Day and midway through the month, Tamashii Nations held a event called, I think, Tamashii Nations 2024, where they revealed a lot. And some of the stuff is very surprising. Before, it seemed like certain IPs were attached to certain figure lines, like all the Ultraman stuff were part of the S.H.Figuarts line. That's why some of the kaiju from Ultraman are also labeled as S.H.Figuarts rather than S.H.MonsterArts. In this event, we saw the first time where one IP actually has figures for both lines. A key example of this would have to be Yu-Gi-Oh! And Harry Potter. So for Harry Potter, they revealed some new figures, like I don't really know much about Harry Potter, but we have Voldemort and one of the older interpretations of Harry, I guess. But alongside that, we also had the first S.H.MonsterArts from Harry Potter, that being the, I think it was called the Thorntail or something like that, and that was very surprising because before it really felt like Tamashii Nations likes to keep its IPs in certain lines, so the fact that we're getting, you know, both S.H.Figuarts and S.H.MonsterArts within the same IP really brings the question of how future releases might go. And it wasn't only restricted to Harry Potter, because we're also getting S.H.Figuarts of Yu-Gi-Oh! Characters. I don't know if this is going to be either the Pharaoh, Yugi, or the Pharaoh inhabiting Yugi, but we'll see. And along with that, we had some new reveals, such as Stardust Dragon, which that leaked, I think, a month before that. And then, unsurprisingly, MonsterArts actually did the thing that they said they would. To some surprise, and for others, not so much as a surprise, with the reveal of the repaint of Gamera 96, we now have a Legion figure. Now, as cool as this thing is, the solicitation hasn't gone up for it yet, so we don't know how much it's going to cost. It's probably going to be single-handedly one of the most expensive MonsterArts figures to be put out. Personally, I think it's going to be pushing the $400 mark, honestly. But, you know, even with a USD of $350, it's definitely going to be a lot more expensive for us Canadian fans. Now, for me personally, I really like Legion, but personally, I just can't get this figure. Not only because, well, it cost a lot. Like, it'll probably be pushing 500 CAD almost. But the other reason is it is gigantic, and even with my display case, even if I try to like take things off of it, it's just like, it's too big, it's too wide, it's too long, it's too high. If I had the choice of getting it, I would probably have to put it on the floor, because that's as it's just such a gigantic figure, and honestly I just can't see myself to really display it, so there's that. Oh yeah, and one more thing about the Tamashii Nations 2024 event. We got another official survey, which is very surprising, especially since how Tamashii Nations has been very sparse with their surveys. Now, I will say this, sure, it's been 6 months, but the fact that we, the international fans, were allowed to partake in this survey is huge. I really hope that Tamashii Nations make more surveys like these, because the more surveys that we, the international fans, will be able to partake in, the better off I think everyone will be, because for once, we, the international fans, will have a way to communicate what figures we want to see, and Tamashii Nations will know what the greater collecting community outside of Japan wants to see from them. So that's really huge. I really hope that the next survey will come sooner rather than later. Hopefully the next survey won't be a year from now. But yeah, honestly, Tamashii Nations, really good on you. Please make more surveys. But thank you. Yes, this is really good. Along with S.H.MonsterArts, unsurprisingly, we had some new reveals from Super 7 and Haya. We'll be talking about those in a bit. Also, there was a bit of a brouhaha with the Mechagodzilla. Apparently, it wasn't accurate to what the suit looked like. And in the face of that criticism, Haya decided to make a statement about it and say that they would actually improve on it. So, personally for me, despite me not being too overly invested in Mechagodzilla 93, mainly because this is the 5th iteration of the character we're seeing in an articulated format. We'll talk more about that later, but you know, the statement that Haya made makes me more excited about the other future releases that they have going on, because if they approach the other future releases in a similar manner, then yeah, Haya's like Haya's king apparently. But personally for me, that initial Mechagodzilla, it wasn't too bad. Like, to me, it looked like Mechagodzilla 93. It doesn't really matter if it was like too skinny in places or too fat in other places. To me, it's like, yeah, it's Mechagodzilla 93. Like, again, it's not the release I'm most excited for from them. Like, I'm more excited about Godzilla 2002, which has some grievances with that, but we'll talk about that later. It's not what you think. It's actually the fact that we are getting a Godzilla 2002, which like relates to a different problem. But yeah. The initial Mechagodzilla 93, in my opinion, was good, and honestly didn't really need to be taken back in to be redesigned. That's my personal hot take about it. I will say this though, Haya Toys has put out yet another -1 figure, and going back to what I said in the previous video, does buying a certain figure really prompt these figure companies to explore more of that title, or just make more variations of that sculpt. And yeah, the new -1 figure is the charge up variant rather than the Odo Island version. So yeah, it's like have yet to see any proof that buying figures from a certain title will guarantee us more figures from that title rather than more repaints of the figure that was selling well. So yeah, it's disappointing, but at the same time, kind of saw it coming. And of course, Movie Monster Series has been killing it, because their latest reveal, which was not too long ago, was the Movie Monster Series Gemstone Megalon. And yeah, the conversations are more or less the same. Now that this thing is up, the talks of an articulated version of these characters have also kind of sprung up. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But yeah, it's like Movie Monster Series, killing it as usual. Oh, what a big surprise. Oh yeah, we're also getting a new Godzilla movie from Toho. Potentially a sequel to Godzilla -1, but yeah, I can't say I was surprised about that either. Alright, so yeah, let's talk about the survey results. Let me just... So, despite my best efforts, we only managed to get 21 responses. In spite of the video that I put up having little over 700 views, little less than 3% of those people actually managed to take the survey. Yeah, this is not good. So we could look at this one of two ways. Either A, not enough people took the survey, therefore the results don't really prove anything. And honestly, this is kind of the camp I'm leaning on, mainly because even if we were to go with B, which I'll explain in a bit, there's, like, again, 21 people. That's around the amount of people you get in a classroom. Now, if we had at least half the people that watched the video take the survey, then that would have been great, alright? Like, little over 300 people, that is pretty much the size of a small community. But yeah, it's like 21, just That's not good. Even if we were to combine the results of this survey with the previous survey, that gives us a data pool of a little less than 50 people. So, you know, it's... yeah, but maybe I was just hoping for too much with that one. So yeah, that is one way we could look at this. The other way we could look at this is that the results are a microcosm of the greater collecting community. However, there's no real way of proving this until we get a larger data set. So, you know, third time's the charm, I guess. Stay tuned. 50 results overall, 21 results with this new survey. So, yeah, it's like, take it as you will. Personally, for me, I just think there's not enough data to really prove anything that's being stated here. So, yeah, until we get a larger data pool, whether it be through this third survey doing better than these first two, or Tamashii Nation's finally revealing their survey results. So, yeah. All right, so let's get on with the survey results. So, yeah, right off the bat, we have definitely a more diverse cast of people taking the survey now. Before, it was just people from Europe and North America that took the survey. But now we're getting more of a diverse split. Now we have people from South America, Africa, and even 2 people from Asia. Sure, we don't have anyone in Japan yet taking the survey, but hey, 2 people from Asia, I'll take that. I'll take that as a win. Alright, now, in terms of the splits, when people started collecting, this time it's a little different. Now we're seeing a higher number of people that started collecting between 2017 and 2021. Before, the larger number were people who started collecting recently. Yeah, it looks like this time we got a whole new batch of people taking it. It seems like either a few or barely anyone from the previous survey managed to take this one. So, yeah, it looks like we're getting a whole new perspective as to what people are hoping to see. Now we get to the, are you still collecting MonsterArts? And this time it is, before we had 92% of people still collecting it, but this time we have 85%. So, yeah, the number of people who stopped collecting is slowly going up. Granted, before 2 people stopped collecting S.H.MonsterArts. This time it's only 3. So now we get to why do you continue collecting S.H.MonsterArts? And we got a these results are more or less the same as last time. You know, I love kaiju. Why would I stop? I only buy when they are affordable or a specific monster I need for my collection. I totally get that. I like the postability. I love collecting monster figures. So yeah, like the responses here are more or less the same as the previous time. It's just more or less. This is one of the only lines that do hyper-articulate Godzilla figures. I like their detail, their paint apps, some of the releases overall. Yeah. Alright, now we get to a new question that I put up, which is simply, where do you post criticisms of the S.H.MonsterArts line? One thing that the Articulation series and the other gens from the Figure Mania show always pointed out is where you post your criticisms is a good way of having Tamashii Nations potentially looking at them. Now, for me personally, I seriously think the best way of posting criticisms is through the surveys, mainly because it's a direct line to between you and Tamashii Nations themselves. The problem with social media nowadays is not a lot of the responses will show up in your feed. I think a really good example of this is how Twitter is slowly becoming a hellscape that is specifically built by Elon Musk himself. There are like shadow bans, there are people that are incapable of commenting, or even if they do comment, the responses either don't show up or the guy who is receiving the response will never see it, things like that. So this is quite the diverse graph here. So yeah, the spread here is a little too wide. Yeah, I think at this point we need to have one single place where people can post their criticisms and complaints, because this is not how you do it. Half of this graph, almost everyone is all over the place, while the other half is relegated to fan collection pages where I'm pretty sure Tamashii Nations don't check out, and YouTuber comment sections, another place that I'm pretty sure Tamashii Nations doesn't check out. So yeah, it's like this ain't it, Chief. We need a better way of actually sending out our criticisms, because I don't think posting on Tamashii Nation's social media pages really, I don't think it's working, honestly. Especially given how certain releases are being reacted to. Alright, now this one is a pretty big one. Because, yeah, as I said, this survey doesn't really do much for Tamashii Nations unless they choose to do something about these results. I went ahead and added the question, did you fill out the latest official S.H.MonsterArts survey published back in July 2024? That was the one from San Diego Comic-Con, not to be confused with the one that released back in November during the Tamashii Nations 2024 event. And, yeah, that's not good. Almost half the people did not take the official S.H.MonsterArts survey. Yeah, that's not good. That's just not good. Yeah, with the follow-up question, if you selected no, could you write down why you didn't fill out the survey published on July 2024? And yeah, the results are more or less the same. I didn't see that. I didn't know there was one. I was unaware of the survey at the time. Haven't done it yet. I forgot. Wasn't aware of it. I was not aware of it. I didn't know there was one. The thing about Tamashii Nation's official surveys is that they don't really last long. Tamashii Nations will have it up for at least a week, and then they'll take it down. So yeah, it's like... But yeah, the fact of the matter is not a lot of people are aware that these surveys exist, which is further evident that Tamashii Nations need to improve their communication skills with their fan base. Because, you know, again, almost half the people that took this survey didn't take that official survey. So, yeah, the question is, how could they? How could they better improve their communication skills? Because, again, it's like... we have been more or less hotwired to what Tamashii Nations has been doing for the past 13 years. They seriously need to do something to better improve their communication skills with the fan base, because, yeah, again, this ain't it. This ain't it. Okay, now we get to the questions from the previous survey. Which IP do you prioritize collecting in the S.H.MonsterArts line? Again, everyone selected Godzilla. Only 4 people selected Gamer this time. Before, I think he had 9. Kong has also reduced. It's only 3 this time. Before, it was 7. And then, yeah, everyone else is more or less the same, with the exception of Yu-Gi-Oh! This time it got 2 votes versus previously, which only had 0. And then, which IP would you like to see more from the S.H.MonsterArts line? And, yeah, it's like, it's more or less a repeat of the previous... Oh, yeah, actually... it's almost linked up with the previous which IP do you prioritize on. So yeah, it's like yeah, Kong is taking the lead. We'd really like to see Tamashii Nations make more Kong figures. What's your personal stance on repaints? So now it's more or less equal. So some people, good number of people are indifferent, but we have more people that want to see less repaints than people who think we need more repaints, which... yeah, it's understandable. Now we get to what do you prioritize in a repaint. Now, before I had the cheat all option of all of the above, but I got rid of that because I do want to see what people really want to see more in repaints. And from the looks of it, the one that gets the highest count is fixed molds. A new mold that fixes accuracy or general problems. That one takes up 42.1% of everyone that took it. Second place is better quality control, better paint, joint tolerance, and overall figure integrity. And of course, new engineering is last place, and yeah, a good third place is accessories. I'm surprised accessories is so low, especially given how many times I've seen people talk about how much they want to see more accessories implemented into their figures. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised that one is taking up third place rather than second or first. So there's that. Are you willing to pay more or less for a repaint? The results are, well, for one, indifferent is taking up the lead, like last time. However, more people are willing to pay more for a repaint rather than less. So that's pretty interesting, especially given the quality of repaints that we've been seeing lately. Now we got this this other question, which is not organized the way that I want it to. For some reason, it's not showing me the figures that have been voting on the most first. So we're just gonna like eyeball this real quick. So what figures do you like the most from the S.H.MonsterArts line? So thus far we have the first Burning Godzilla, Kiryu 2002, Shin Godzilla 4th Form Awakening version, Godzilla 2002, Kiryu Shinigami Final Battle version, Gigan 72. Oh wait, no, that's the last one. Yeah. So yeah, those are the figures that people like the most. So yeah, if Tamashii Nations wants to take any notes, there you go. And then we have why did you pick the following figures? Good price and figure. I like them because those are the ones I like. Some of the figures I like / own, and some of them feel like, as for example, one has effect parts and accessories of other figures like Fire Rodan. The original release had a bad damage Mechagodzilla head, and the Spiral Ray for Heisei Godzilla. They're my favorite, great quality. These figures mostly have no issue, and they are my personal favorite designs. Yeah, it's kind of what you expect. You know, these figures are interpretations of characters that I really wanted to see, or just the general quality of the figure is just above par the rest from the looks of it. Alright, now we get to what figure do you dislike the most, and we're just going to be focusing on, ooh boy. Okay, so we have 12 people selected Shimu, even though that's a figure that hasn't released yet. But yeah, Ghidorah 2019 and Shimu seem to be the outliers here, so it's going to be curious to see why people voted on those. And the reasons are not deserves for their price. I don't like because I don't like them. The reason for my picks are either because they were brokenly expensive to the point it wasn't worth getting them. QC issue figures come out of the box with their parts disconnected and the lack of accessories, plus we're now getting the first figure and it has problems with a high price with no accessories from the start, or a bare minimum, and then a web shop / store exclusive comes out that has the accessories we need at launch. Poor quality, high prices, irrelevant. Yeah, you get that. Pointless repaint with an ugly head sculpt. Yeah. Horrible QC. Joints were so horrible. Yeah, from the sounds of it, it's mainly it's a repaint that didn't need to happen. The price was too high, or too many QC issues. So what other figure lines do you collect? And yeah, the results are more or less the same as last time, almost perfectly. Yeah, I'm pretty sure if you overlaid this with the previous survey results, they'll match up almost perfectly. What other figure lines do you collect that were not listed in the previous question? Monster Hunter, Star Trek Starships, Transformers Hammond Collection, ZD Toys Jurassic World Hammond Collection, Funko Pops, and Lego Marvel Legends. So what type / style of figures would you like to see more of in the S.H.MonsterArts line currently? And the results are, again, the same. The majority of people want to see movie accurate figures rather than experimental or poster repaint versions. And now we have the, if you were to add an IP to the MonsterArts line, what would it be? And again, some of these choices are available on the MonsterArts surveys, the product surveys, I believe. And yeah, it's so weird seeing similar results more or less repeating themselves between these two surveys, because I honestly thought that things would be really different. Especially since it seems like the 21 people that took this survey aren't the same people, nor are they any of the 28 people that took the previous survey. Yet despite that, a lot of the responses seem to be the same, with the one exception being Pokemon definitely has less of a boost now than it did back then, which I think like back then it was the 4th most hoped for to have a MonsterArts line going. Meanwhile, now it's just tied with the Digimon. But yeah, in terms of like the big hitters, Pacific Rim, Jurassic Park, Rebirth of Mothra, all of those are more or less the same, especially when you compare it to last time. So that's pretty interesting. So now we get to, are there any other IPs would you like to see in the S.H.MonsterArts line? We have 3 no's, but yeah, we have Warhammer, Evangelion. I'm so sorry. Cloverfield, Tremors. Dude, Tremors would be so fun. King Kong, like Jackson's Kong. I agree with you, man. I think we need more Kong figures in the S.H.MonsterArts line, honestly, along with Gamera. Maybe monsters from movie franchises. Bit broad, but okay. Pacific Rim, Cloverfield, iconic slasher monsters like Jason, Freddy, and Michael Myers. I don't know about that. Like, SH Figure Arts, sure. Not sure about Monster Arts, though. But, yeah, I think, having Monster Arts explore more. Maybe be a little bit like NECA. Maybe making some of the Universal classic monsters like Dracula, the Mummy, the Gill Man. Yeah, I could see that being up their alley. Especially since they're making things like Harry Potter now. And then we have another vote for Cloverfield, so... Yeah, a lot of Cloverfield. I'm kind of surprised to see Clover like still hanging in there. Also, I like to point out that this has 10 responses out of the 21 people that took this survey. So, kind of curious as to why not more people took this. But I guess maybe people just think of S.H.MonsterArts and automatically want to see more Godzilla rather than anything else. So, honestly, that's fine. That's fine. Now we get to one of the big ones. For the Godzilla line, which era would you like to see more or less from? Now, for both of these questions, I've added an additional question, which is simply, why did you select the following eras? And, because before, the results were pretty surprising. And, yeah, I just kind of want to poke and prod at people as to why they chose the eras that they did for each of these questions. So, yeah. For what people would like to see more from, same as last time, Showa era is taking up the lead. And then you have Heisei that's more or less similar. This time 7 people voted for Heisei versus the previous time which had 8. I also added TriStar, so Godzilla 98, Godzilla the Animated Series. And that's tied up with the Millennium Era. And then you have Monsterverse and Reiwa. So if I were to organize these, it would be Showa first, TriStar and Millennium will be tied for second. Monsterverse and Heisei would be tied for third, and Reiwa would be last. And what people have to say is, I love the traditional designs, because those are the ones I like the most, plus Showa is criminally underrepresented. Bro, if only you knew. I grew up with these eras, or some figures from movies haven't been made, and would like to both have and own. Yeah, Monsterverse has done a good job representing the more modern eras. We need more Showa era figures. Yeah, preach. It's my favorite area, and the current figures are hard to get or don't do justice to the actual suits. The lack of representation or gave us designs that would be really cool to see in figure form. Yeah, more representation needed. Love the look of Godzilla in the film, because they have the largest quantity of monsters that could be adapted to fit in the line. Showa is the least represented in the line despite having the most available kaijus from all eras. Yeah. So, yeah, the reasons being, these are some of people's favorite eras, or these eras contain some of people's favorite films or monster interpretations. But one thing I really do want to point out is how many people are saying this era hasn't been represented a lot? And yeah, I totally agree. Like, 40% worth of Heisei. And we're just getting more. Yeah. Alright, now we get to... oh wait, yeah, I should probably mention. The results here are more or less the same as previous. With the exception of TriStar like coming in and getting a lot of the glory. But yeah, it's like Showa number 1, Millennium number 2, Heisei number 3, Monsterverse number 4, and then Reiwa right at the end. Despite the fact that a good number of monsters from the Reiwa era still haven't been adapted yet, so yeah, there's that. Alright, now this brings us to, for the Godzilla line, which era would you like to see the least from? And I'm... okay, so Monsterverse has come out on top with 11 votes total. But following behind is Heisei. So, yeah, I was really surprised last time when Monsterverse, like, ended up being the era that people wanted to see the less from. Mainly because it feels like Monsterverse always gets like the short end of the stick, especially when it comes to Bandai. And you know the fact that we still don't have like certain iterations of characters, even though MonsterArts had more than enough time to make them, is surprising. And also like we barely have any figures of some of the Monsterverse original monsters. So yeah, like it took us 10 years since the release of Godzilla 2014 and the advent of another figure line coming in to finally give us a female Muto figure. Meanwhile, Tamashii Nations, they had this license for 10 years and now are considering to make it. Emphasis there, they're considering to make it. They didn't say they will make it, they're considering it. So yeah, it's... okay, so as to why people selected some of these eras. Because some of the worst designs came from here, and I'm drowning in the legendary stuff. Yeah, it seems to be the standard. If one era doesn't sell, try going back to a more selling line. Some of the show monsters I'm not a fan of, especially Minya. We already have almost all the characters in this era. Probably talking about Heisei. Heisei has been covered extensively because Monsterverse is overused. Has it been overused? The quality control is horrible and the skulls barely match the film and they are too many repaints. There's like 9,999 Monsterverse Godzilla that all suck, and almost all the Monsterverse figures suck. Heisei has covered what they need to cover. Wouldn't mind re-releases though. Heisei is the most popular in the brand. Of course it would have the most to sell. It is exhausting from someone who already has many Monsterverse, has many bad or underwhelming releases, many of which not accurate to on-screen appearances. Yeah, so from the sounds of it, it seems like with both Monsterverse and Heisei, there's just too much. And to that, I agree to an extent. Yes, Monsterverse I think was the era that has the second most amount of figures in it. Let me just double check my... yeah, so Monsterverse has the second most amount of figures, where Heisei has the most. So Heisei has 40%, while Monsterverse has little more than 21%. However, Monsterverse is just half of what the Heisei era is. So I'm kind of surprised that a lot of people don't want to see more Monsterverse, especially since previously, you know, where Monsterverse was leading the charge in terms of the era that people want to see less of. The male and female Muto still managed to make it up to the top 20. So, very curious about that. But yeah, I guess we'll see if certain Monsterverse monsters are anywhere near like the top 20 or top 30. Actually, no, we'll just say top 20. Because yeah, it's like... yeah, it's curious. Because to me, I feel like Monsterverse has been underutilized. Like, yeah, we have a lot of Degretti Godzilla. We have a good number of Godzilla 2014s, despite them not being accurate. But at the same time, we don't have any of the Monsterverse unique monsters. And I guess where I'm coming from this is, imagine if Bandai decided to do the same practice, you know, not do any of the monsters unique to one era, only covering the originals. If that were the case, then the Heisei era now would not have Mecha King Ghidorah, they wouldn't have Space Godzilla, they wouldn't have arguably Super Godzilla or the Garuda, they wouldn't have Batra, and the big bad himself, they wouldn't have Destroya. So, you know, that's where I'm coming from. Like, I really wish that Monsterverse could just get a fair shake. Hopefully Haya will like pick up the slack, because, you know, I would like to see a solo figure. I would like to see a team map figure still. I would like to see all versions of the Mutos being made. But yeah, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised about that. I'm surprised that a good majority of people want to see less Monsterverse rather than more, especially since a lot of the original monsters from the Monsterverse have yet to be adapted. But again, that could be the reason why people want to see less, because some people just don't like the Monsterverse original monsters, nor do they like the designs of them, and that's completely fair too. Alright, now we have a new question here that wasn't in the previous survey. And it's simply this. After 13 years of producing figures, has MonsterArts managed to make your most anticipated / requested figures? And yeah, I'm glad that this is the ratio that we're getting, but it is cutting it a little close. It is getting close to 50-50. Like, you have 13 people that said yes. MonsterArts managed to make the figure that they wanted to see, but 8 people said no. So, you know, it kind of raises the question of what figures do MonsterArts still need to make. But yeah, alright, now we get to the big one. The big question. The big one that everyone's been waiting for. What Godzilla monsters would you like to see next in the S.H.MonsterArts line? Okay. You ready for this? Because I'm not. The top 10 monsters. We have Showa and Gearus from 1965 to 1974. Then we have Godzilla 98. Yeah, like last time, Zilla is tied for the top. So, yeah, it's Machination, so I hope you're taking notes. Showa King Ghidorah, specifically the one from 1964 to 65. I think there's like some slight design differences between 64 and 65 with the later iterations that appeared in Destroying Monsters than Godzilla vs. Gigan. Titanosaurus, Gorosaurus, King Caesar, Orga, Godzilla 2000. He's still up here, let's go. King Ghidorah 1968 to 1972, so that's the other Showa Ghidorah. And Megalon. Those are the top 10 most requested monster figures. Now for top 20. For top 20, we have King Ghidorah 2001, Kaiser Ghidorah, pre-mutated Godzilla or Godzillasaurus 2023, so Odo Island version of Godzilla from Godzilla -1, Baragon 68, Anguirus 55, Tiamat, surprising, Godzilla 84, Megaguirus, female Muto, and male Muto. So in spite of Monsterverse being one of the eras people wanted to see the least from, 3 Monsterverse monsters still managed to make it to the top 20. Now sure, like I'm pretty sure last time the male Muto managed to make it in the top 10. I'm not sure if the female Muto also made it. I think she was in the top 20, but she was like ranked 11th as the most requested figures. So, let's talk about this. So, as I stated in the beginning of the video, some of my predictions did not age well. One of those being, I expressed with confidence that we'll probably never see a movie-accurate Godzilla 2000, especially considering how Tamashii Nations approached the Monsterverse King Ghidorah and how they never really improved on the sculpt of that figure, despite the many differences their initial figure had to the actual final design of the character. So, imagine my surprise when Godzilla 2000 ended up being announced at the Tamashii Nations 2024 event. Okay, now that we're on the subject of Godzilla 2000, the age-old question, which one will I buy? Will I buy the Haya or the S.H.MonsterArts? And my answer to that question is simply both. It'd be extremely damn stupid of me to not at least pick up one of these. And you know, it's like, I will admit, like, as happy as I was to finally see an articulated Godzilla 2000 enter the market through the Haya figure, there was a part of me that was a little disappointed that it wasn't MonsterArts that managed to make that iteration of the character first. But yeah, like at that point, I was already decided. Like I want to get as many iterations of Godzilla 2000 as I can. So yeah, I already paid out the pre-order for the Haya figure, and right now I'm just waiting for the solicitation for the S.H.MonsterArts to come out. And as soon as that's available on like Cowkiss Toys, I'm gonna place my pre-order in. I want to get it as early as I can, and yeah, that's where I stand on it. It's like, and I think, you know, like the most important thing about this is like this is the figure that I have been asking for the past 13 years, ever since MonsterArts started with that initial Godzilla 94, with that Mecha Godzilla 93. This is my holy grail figure, and you know, it's like to finally get an articulated version of this. Like give me a minute. So outside of the fact that Godzilla 2000 is one of the first Godzilla movies that I've ever watched, this guy, I think it's the Bandai Creations Godzilla 2000. This guy was my childhood. Like, I took this guy everywhere, and then when MonsterArts came around, I really wanted to see this guy be an articulated figure. And yeah, it's like, to miss out on one of them would be incredibly dumb of me. Like, I've been asking for this for 13 years now. This is my all-time favorite incarnation of Godzilla. It feels so good to finally see him made in the S.H.MonsterArts line. So, yeah, in terms of the answer to that question, yeah, both. Will I go a little bankrupt? Yeah, just a little bit. But, you know, it's like, in terms of, like, no other figure now matters to me, alright? It's just obtaining those two. If anything, I already obtained the Haya. Like, I put my payment down. Now I'm just waiting for the MonsterArts. And then you have Showa era Anguirus, which was, I believe, in the previous survey, was 6th place in the survey. So, a couple of things I want to point out. Godzilla 2000 has since fallen from grace. What was one of the most requested versions of Godzilla, like top 2, has now fallen to 8th place. Now, what has happened between me putting up this survey and the last survey that I made? Haya Toys made their Godzilla 2000. So, basically what I'm trying to say is the choices that one company makes will affect another. The fact that Godzilla 2000 was, you know, so high in terms of, you know, being one of the most requested versions of Godzilla, then plummeted to 8th place, and the only difference between being that between the releases of these two surveys, Haya Toys announced that they were making a Godzilla 2000. Alright, now this brings us to what I said earlier in the video, which was simply, how do we interpret the data that was collected? Because, you know, you could go one of two ways. Either A, there's not enough data, even with these two surveys combined, to really say that this is definitively what people are saying, that this is what the overall collecting community wants to see from S.H.MonsterArts. And honestly, this is the camp that I kind of subscribe to. However, if we do that, then that takes away a lot of the gravity of the recent MonsterArts releases that we had. They're just another name in MonsterArts' process and what figure ends up getting made during the time. It does give more credence to Burning Godzilla being made, which we'll talk about that soon. I mean, yeah, like, for me, this is the that's the mindset I'm subscribing to. Like, until we get a larger data set that confirms what's being placed here, then, yeah. Which brings us to me. Are the results of these a microcosm of what the greater fan community kind of wants to see? If that's the case, then yeah, Tamashii Nations managed to make 2 of the most requested figures out of 10, according to the community. However, if that's the case, then we also need to contend with the fact that Burning Godzilla is here. So, you're probably wondering, oh, Godzilla 2000 is here, and Gears is here, therefore, Burning Godzilla has to be another figure in the top 10 as the figure that people want to see the most of. No. Okay, top 20 then. Also no, Burning Godzilla is not in the top 20, nor is he in the top 30. Burning Godzilla, in both surveys, ranks 54th place. Which means, if we are to go with the mindset of this survey is a microcosm of what the greater fan community wants to see from S.H.MonsterArts, and we say, look, Tamashii Nations made 2 out of 10 of the most requested figures from the community, then we need to contend with the fact that they jumped 53, well, technically 52 since Anguirus and Godzilla 2000 are already made. They skipped 51 other figures that they could potentially make to make this Burning Godzilla. Yeah, that brings us to the final 4 questions of the survey. Oh boy. So, was there a Godzilla monster missing from the list you'd like to see in the S.H.MonsterArts line? This time, we got a lot more no's than before. Before we had, some Gamera stuff. Camo Webis, Snow Godzilla, and it's just, just a plethora of other suggestions. But this time we have a lot more no's than suggestions. The only 2 that we got this time was Godzilla 95 Rebirth and Muto Prime. So yeah, that's interesting. Maybe things will change again with this 3rd survey, but I don't know. It's like now we have after 13 years, do you like what MonsterArts managed to provide? Majority of people said yes. So that's good. And then we have, why did you select the following answer to the previous question? And, it's like the same as before as to why people continue collecting S.H.MonsterArts. Their quality is really good, their articulation is really good. They just subscribe to what Tamashii Nations more or less provides with this line, which, yeah, I agree. It's just personally, I just wish that Tamashii Nations just made some different decisions when it comes to how they manufacture their figures. And of course, finally, I had to. I had to just in case, because I want to make sure that the dataset was not altered by me at any point. So, the final question is simply being, did the video, why the S.H.MonsterArts line needs to change, affect any of your answers on this survey? And thankfully, the majority of people said no. 13 people out of 19 said they weren't swayed. And I'm really glad for that, because, the whole point of the survey is to provide a clear picture as to what's going on behind the scenes. Why is MonsterArts making more Heisei? Is it because it's highly requested, or are they just fulfilling their own kind of agendas, which there's something behind that I want to talk about more later. But, yeah, so I just really wanted to make sure that the results that I got were clear-cut, and they're just through people's own experiences rather than, being influenced by my own experiences that I put in the video, and then I present it to everyone and go, this is what MonsterArts is. So yeah, I'm really glad that the majority of people said no. However, in saying that, 5 people said yes, and 1 person said maybe, so yeah, I'm just glad that it's a greater majority that said no. Really glad for that. And hopefully the same won't happen this time. Okay, so let's talk about, the results and cross-referencing that with some of the recent reveals that we've gotten from not only MonsterArts, but also Hiya Toys. So, I think one thing we should probably bring up is, why is Burning Godzilla here? especially since there's like 51 other figures that rank higher. And if the reasoning is, oh, it's a Heisei release, or oh, it's a repaint that they can make. Here's all the repaints that ranked higher than Burning Godzilla in both surveys, and here's all the Heisei figures that also ranked higher than Burning Godzilla in both surveys. Why Tamashii Nations didn't go with one of these is, it's the great mystery, I guess. And of course, there's going to be the key reason being that this is stated to be an anniversary release. And to that I say, Tamashii Nations has been around for 13 years, and there have been more than enough anniversaries that they've completely skipped out on. Some of them were Heisei anniversaries as well. Like, they could have decided to celebrate the anniversary of Godzilla 85, which also ranked higher than Burning Godzilla in both surveys. And yet, that remains a figure that hasn't been made. So, it's like 51 figures, 51 other figures that Tamashii Nations could have made. Some of them being repaints themselves, and they still went for Burning Godzilla. That is just something that I just don't want to subscribe to. Which brings me to this other thing, which is simply, I've kind of realized recently that a lot of these figure companies have biases in terms of what should be made versus what shouldn't be made. And I can't subscribe to that. Like, yeah, let's say if I were given the keys to make my own Godzilla figure line. I'm a fan of the Millennium Era. Alright, two of those films sit in my top 5 all-time favorite Godzilla movies. This era also contains some of my all-time favorite designs of not only Godzilla, but some of the characters like Mechagodzilla or Mothra. My childhood was built on renting Godzilla Final Wars from Blockbuster and watching that film every weekend morning. But despite that, I would not overkeep the Millennium Era's stay in a figure line, because I know that there are other things that need to be adapted as well. So, the fact that we're seeing yet another Burning Godzilla, again, like, it should be noted that this is the 3rd time Tamashii Nations is making a Burning Godzilla, the 5th time we're seeing this character being adapted, and, this will go into something else I want to talk about, which is the overlap between these multiple companies making their own Godzilla figures. But, it's like one of the reasons why Godzilla 2000 and Anguirus is so hyped is for the simple reason of these are some of the first figures of their kind. From 2011 to now, we've never had a movie-accurate Godzilla 2000. The last time we had an articulated Anguirus figure was with Sci-Fi Revoltech back in the 2010s. So yeah, understandably, people are really hyped for these releases because they're the first of their kind. They're the first time we're seeing these characters finally being adapted. Meanwhile, Burning Godzilla, which is the 3rd time we're seeing this character being made in the S.H.MonsterArts line, 5th time it's being entered into the market as an articulated Godzilla figurine. And yeah, I just, like, compared to Godzilla 2000, I don't really think I've seen the same level of hype or anticipation when compared to Burning Godzilla. So it's like, yeah. And yes, while I finally got my Godzilla 2000, which is a figure that I've been asking for 13 years. What about the people that wanted to see something else? How many more years do those people need to wait for their most requested figure? Whether it be a Titanosaurus or a Megalon or a King Ghidorah 2001. How many more Heisei repaints and reissues do we need before we finally get those figures to be made? But yeah, that's just like where I stand with it. It's like, there's certain characters that definitely need to be more prioritized than others, and Burning Godzilla is not one of those characters. And speaking of Burning Godzilla, since this is a new repaint, remember last time when I said a repaint should fulfill 2 out of 4 requirements to justify it being made? Well, let's talk about it. So, you know what, we'll give this a fair shake. Let me pull up the image of the actual figure itself and try to analyze it as best as I could. Okay, so we can't really say anything about demand because we don't have a data set to really We can't really prove if what my survey is like a microcosm or not. So until then, we can't really say this figure is not demanded, nor can we say it is demanded. Does it have a new sculpt? From this one image, I can't really tell. The one thing that I've seen a lot of people mention, and this will go into the other thing, which is new engineering, is that the tail tip looks exactly the same as the original 94 and the other Burning Godzillas that came out before it, which is quite surprising considering that we have two Heisei Godzillas with improved tail articulation, tail engineering, that being the Godzilla 89 and the Godzilla 91. So why Tamashii Nations didn't decide to utilize the engineerings from those figures and implement them into this one is curious. And, it's just the one image. We don't see any accessories on here. But yeah, I think I'll give this a proper judgment until we see more images. Because with that, at least, we'll know if we'll have accessories. We'll know if the sculpt has been improved compared to the first two times this character was made. And we'll get a better gauge to see if there's been any new engineering. Because, yeah, the back is... the front of the figure is facing us, but who knows, maybe those spines you could remove and put in like melted spines. But until we see that, yeah, there's just not much to really gauge about this. But yeah, do I think this figure will have anything new to it to really justify its existence? I don't know, man. I really don't know, because this is the third time we're getting a Burning Godzilla. What else can they really put on it? I guess that's my question. Sure, there's like the red spiral ray, which hasn't been seen since the initial Rodan release, but yeah, I'm not sure if they'll put it on here, because Tamashii Nations has always been weird when it comes to what accessories can be re-released and what accessories cannot. So yeah, it's like, I don't know. All right, now this brings us to some of the higher reveals. So in the previous video, I've championed Haya for what they've done, which is making figures that Tamashii Nations hasn't made. It's like, I think every figure company that is making Godzilla figures now, each one of them has something unique to bring to the table. So with MonsterArts, they kind of more or less proved that articulated Godzilla figurines do sell well. You have Haya that's picking up the slack and making interpretations of characters, or characters overall, that Tamashii Nations hasn't made and potentially will never make. Again, sure, they state that they have interest in making a Muto figure. Doesn't necessarily mean they will make a Muto figure. But meanwhile, I ended up making a Muto figure along with Kong 2017, the Skullcrawler, and let's not forget that they were the first to make a movie-accurate articulated Godzilla 2000 before Tamashii Nations announced theirs. And then you have Super 7, that's also doing kind of the same thing. They made a rose form version of Violante, while also making more NECA-ish releases, like the Thirsty for Blood Godzilla, or the Meltdown Godzilla, and the Blazing Godzilla that came out recently. And personally, I'm just really looking forward to seeing what else they'll potentially make. However, going back to what I said about Haya, one of the good things about them is they were making figures that Tamashii Nations hasn't made. That statement is starting to fall a little false, especially given the two recent reveals that they showcased. That being Mechagodzilla 93 and Godzilla 2002. Now, I talked about Burning Godzilla, but I guess we might as well get to this. It is great that we have so many options for articulated Godzilla figures. My problem comes from the fact that there's so much overlap between these multiple companies. The amount of overlap has increased to the state where we are getting 5 of every certain iteration of certain characters. So with this Mechagodzilla reveal from Haya, that makes it the 5th time we're seeing Mechagodzilla 93 enter the market. The first and second time was with MonsterArts, with both the original Mechagodzilla 93 release back in 2011, I believe. Then you have the Super Mechagodzilla release. And then after that, you had the Super 7 Super Mechagodzilla. Then you had MonsterArts again with their repaint of Super Mechagodzilla, along with Rodan. And then finally, that brings us to now with Haya's. And the same thing with Burning Godzilla. We had two MonsterArts. Then we had we had the one MonsterArts. Then we had NECA. Then we had MonsterArts again. Then we had Super 7, and now we have MonsterArts again with this new Burning Godzilla. It's getting to the point where we need to start we need to start diversifying more. We need to spread our horizons, because even if you were to combine all these figure lines together, the amount of figures that haven't been made in one line and for another line to compensate, there's still an imbalance with that. And I might as well point out this, but in spite of us having 5 versions of Mechagodzilla 93, we do not have one version of Godzilla 93. Sure, Tamashii Nations made that poster repaint, but that figure is a repaint of the 95 Godzilla sculpt. And in spite of us having 4 versions of GMK Godzilla, we still don't have any Baragon, Mothra, or King Ghidorah figures to go along with them. I guess what I'm trying to say is I stand simply as this. The Figure Mania show posted a question not too long ago asking how many people would like to see Haya making a Godzilla 98 figure. And my response to that question is more or less where I stand with all figure lines. S.H.MonsterArts, Haya, doesn't really matter. A Godzilla 98 figure is better than no Godzilla 98 figure. And the fact that we have so much overlap with these releases, it's just getting so tiring. Like, how many more versions of Burning Godzilla, of Mechagodzilla 93, of all these Heisei releases, and even some of these Millennium releases that are being retreaded? Like, again, Godzilla 2002, Kiryugoji, despite it being one of my more anticipated figures from Haya, I'm okay if I waited a little longer. I would much rather have gotten that figure maybe 2-3 years from now rather than having it now, because it's these figure lines are just retreading the same grounds as the figure lines that came before, when there's just so much more that needs to be made. Alright, we don't have a Titanosaurus. We don't have a Mechagodzilla 75. We only have one Godzilla 84, and that's been out of print for years now. We don't have the first Super X. We don't have an Orga, a Mega Gearus. The majority of the Showa era and Millennium era remain blank. Okay, now before I sign off on this video, I do want to address one thing, and that is movie tie-in releases. Because I showed that graph on the Kaiju Collectors Discord. And the Articulation series, we had a discussion in terms of movie tie-in releases and new releases, and how I put movie tie-in releases in its own category, even though they are technically new releases. And to that I say, the Articulation series is right. Movie tie-in releases are new releases, and I even organized the graph in a way where if you wanted to include movie tie-in releases with new releases, you easily could. While movie tie-in releases are new releases, not all new releases are movie tie-in releases. To put it really simply, let's look at how Tamashii Nations handled the full cast of characters from Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire to that of Godzilla vs. Gigan. Yes, we finally got Anguirus from Godzilla vs. Gigan, and that's releasing soon. But it took Tamashii Nations 3 years and counting to get that full cast of characters done. Meanwhile, Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire, one of the latest MonsterVerse releases to be made, all those characters got the 2 forms of Godzilla: Kong, Scar King, Shimu, Mothra, Suko. 7 releases, almost twice as many releases as that of Godzilla vs. Gigan. All that managed to release within a year. Even if you were to take the earliest release date and the latest release date, they all managed to release within a single year. Meanwhile, Godzilla vs. Gigan, we still don't have a Showa King Ghidorah to go with it. So yeah, that's like pushing 4 years now to complete that movie. So that's where I stand, really. Like, movie tie-in releases and new releases, there's a different level of urgency for those figures being made. Like, if new releases were treated with the same level of urgency as movie tie-in releases, like if we managed to get all the monsters from Godzilla vs. Gigan released within a year, then a lot more monsters would be made now rather than being blank boxes or silhouettes. Alright, so yeah, let's bring this whole video to a close, I guess. So we're gonna do one last survey, and this is to confirm what is being put down, like the previous survey. So yeah, this survey is definitely going to be the one that will break the camel's back, and depending on how things go from here, I guess I could go forward with my original grand plan. The original plan was to release a survey every 6 months up until 2 years have passed, because Tamashii Nations has made it really clear that it takes them 2 years to more or less manufacture a figure. So in those 2 years, I wanted to map out if the demands of the fans were actually being met. And like with this survey, because it's such a small number, it's really hard to tell. But depending on how you look at it, we could see it as Tamashii Nations managed to make 2 out of 10 of the most anticipated Godzilla figures, or they're just names that were drawn from a hat, and Tamashii Nations decided to finally make them. But yeah, with this survey, if we could get more than 100 people to take it, I think that would be enough to more or less confirm what's being put down. It will definitely give more emphasis on these past 2 surveys. It would at least confirm a couple of things. But yeah, if we could get just at least 100 people to take the survey, then yeah, we can at least confirm a couple of things. And yeah, in 6 months I will make another video like this, going over the results and presenting it to all of you. And yeah, in those 6 months, while that's happening, I'll be working on some other videos. Not figure related. There's some other videos that I really wanted to jump on, just talking about stuff that I've been meaning to for quite a while now. I might do a MonsterArts top 10 video, or just a video talking about the figures that I really want to see being interpreted by any company. Mainly because I don't think I've expressed where I really stand on what figures I would really like to see. But yeah, it's like, I might make that, leave a comment if you would like to see that. And yeah, depending on if we do manage to get that 100 or over 100, then yeah, I'll go forward with the plan. Otherwise, if we get like another less than 20 people taking this survey as well, then yeah, I guess I'll just end the surveys right then and there, because again, just like, we need a large enough data set to really confirm what's being thrown out there. We needed to confirm the validity of these last 2 surveys that I put out. We also needed to confirm a couple of things that are being stated in the collecting community. We need to confirm some of the things that I've stated in both this video and the previous video, to really see where we as fans stand in terms of how S.H.MonsterArts handles things. But yeah, hopefully this succeeds this time. They say 3rd time's the charm, 4th time's the harm. But yeah, that's the video. Really want, this is like less than the previous video, mainly because I wanted to get this done before Christmas. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope this at least answered some of your questions. Please, for God's sakes, take the survey. It's the first link in the description below. I beg of you. That's all, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the video, and have a safe and happy holidays. Till next time, everybody. And by next time, I mean 6 months.